Hello and welcome to Risk at Work, Risk Connect's educational web series. I'm Scott Fenstermaker. I'm the VP of Digital Marketing. Today we're talking about the realities of artificial intelligence in risk management, opportunities, risks, and practical approaches. Now I know you might be asking yourself, I've seen 25 webinars on artificial intelligence this past week. What's so special about this one? Why should I be listening up? Well, today we are going to go much deeper than any other webinar in terms of how AI is going to affect risk management, what we can actually expect, how we should expect to be integrating AI risk in terms of an ERM framework, and what opportunities there actually are, very specific opportunities for AI to enhance the process of enterprise risk management. Couple of housekeeping notes before I introduce our guest today. Number one, if you have questions for our guest today, please put them into the questions field of your webinar software. If we do not answer your question as part of the presentation today, we will reach out to you directly to get you an answer. Also, if you indicated that you would like CPE credit for attending this webinar, please watch your inbox after we are done here today. We are going to send you a short 3-question quiz. You fill that out, you turn that back to us, and we will reply to you with your CPE credit. All right. We are welcoming back an internationally recognized speaker, writer, educator, and advisor on operational risk management, starting prominently in financial services and banks like Lloyd's Banking Group. Her textbook, Operational Risk Management, Best Practices in the Financial Industry, was Book of the Year 2020 for Operational Risk by risk.net. Last year, her more recent article, Smaller Companies Must Embrace Risk Management, was published by some small business related rag that is so inconsequential I can't even remember the name of it. Oh yes, now I remember. It was the Harvard Business Review. She is an extraordinary talent, extraordinary intellect, and she has wonderful advice for us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome back Ariane Chapelle. Dr. Chapelle, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the introduction. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to Risk at Works for the new ones. Looking forward to this discussion with you on this topic. I know it's a topic you like, and
I've been looking forward to it for quite a while too.
We'll be interacting on this. All right. So 3 parts as always. We're going to start with the AI framework and strategy, risk management framework. As you said in the intro, Scott, we're going to look more specifically into how AI can help risk management and mitigate some risk, not only generates new ones. And then we're, of course, going to close about the main risks that are usually talked about when it comes to artificial intelligence and give some elements of response, hopefully. So first thing first, an interesting context to give you here, which is the survey that Risk Connect conducted and published on risk.net, mostly in the financial services industries, that found lots of interesting elements that I would encourage you to read if you access this survey. But first of all, most respondents, so a very large majority, around 90%, found that AI is an opportunity for the sector, for their firm, and also for their role. So not all of them, or majority of them, don't feel threatened by AI. They feel others will be threatened by AI, and we'll have a chance to discuss that, but not themselves. That in itself was interesting. But the angle I want to take with you today is essentially around the main areas, the top three areas of improvement that the respondents feel is necessary: the framework, the risk management framework for AI, the strategy when it comes to AI and the objectives of using it, and then everything around data governance, data availability, and the transparency and explainability of models. And so what's highlighted on these slides will be the 3 topics I'd like to cover with you today. AI RMF, which is the acronym for Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Framework. That's a mouthful. Well, I have an easy answer for you. integrated into your ERM framework. Do not develop a separate risk management framework for artificial intelligence, and don't do it either for ESG, which is the other super common or super popular topic in risk management, or for third party, etc. Try very hard to have the same approach, risk under one roof. We know that with Risk Connect as well. They have the same approach, the same framework for all your risks. And what are these steps at high level? Well, first thing first, how are you going to use AI? So what is your strategy for that? And what are you trying to achieve? So what are your objectives in using the new technologies? And given your objectives, that leads to your risk identification, because ISO, the international standards of enterprise risk management, defines risk in a very concise way. It's the effect of uncertainty on objectives. So you have to know, or you have to be firm on your objectives in order to look at what are the uncertainties around these objectives. Another important part, and Scott and I will go back on that, is the risk assessment. You probably heard me saying in the past that risk management or enterprise risk is very much like a water mattress. When you press on down one level on one risk, the other one pops up. And so AI can decrease some of the risk, typically will decrease human errors and process risk by automation, but will increase others. So you will have these shifts in your risk type, so in the intensity and the exposure of some of your risk types in your organization, and that requires a change in your risk assessment, not only on the standalone risks that AI will bring or you think will bring, but also what impacts it has on the rest of your risk profile of your company. And so that's why it's really important to have this integrated framework. Another element we're going to talk about is the dependencies on subject matter experts, because these are heavily technological, heavily specific topics, and the knowledge is not spread yet. It will be hopefully in the years and decades to come, but not yet. And so there's a subject matter experts dependencies on that. And then once you know what are your risks and how large they are, what's the risk response? So not only mitigation, which are the ones you accept, which are the one you transfer or eliminate as well. And finally, like always, a very strong monitoring part, and we're going to close that loop again in the third part of this webinar when we talk about model risk and data management. So monitoring and refresh is particularly important. Okay, so that's essentially what I wanted to talk to you about on this part. I'm just going to elaborate a little bit. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it's neither good nor bad. Everything depends on its use. You can use dynamite to in mining works, or you can use dynamite in warfare. You can plant a nail, hammer a nail in a wall, or you can hit with your neighbor with a hammer. The impact will be quite different. I have noisy neighbor, hence the example. I knew Scott would be amused. I don't do that in real life, but I just wanted to illustrate my point. And so it really depends on how you use artificial intelligence that will make it beneficial or not. And so a classic examples that is widely used at the moment and developed by a lot of firms, everything that is easily prone to delegation, so back office tasks. We know we all interact with chatbots with various experience. Customer interface is common. Claims handling, Risk Connect is very many of you, I'm sure, have a large history on claims handling. That's typically one of these textual data interactions where AI is particularly adapted. Historically as well, everything in the front office, so in the banking industry, trading, product selections, gosh, we all had our suggestion on Amazon and Google in the past. That's also part of the classic AI that we know. Now with the the progress in large language modeling. You have more possibilities in data cleaning, automated data cleaning, text analysis, and then the bibliographical research, translations, who doesn't use DeepL, for instance, who doesn't use ChatGPT for summaries, and who doesn't use Grammarly for editing. Grammarly in English, Antidote for French, for the French speakers among you, Antidote, great. The range of practice varies widely across firms. Of course, at the one end of the spectrum, we have the Google and the Microsoft and the OpenAI. And the other end of the spectrum, I have organizations who are sometimes also public organizations I won't mention, but when I say, use ChatGPT, they say chat who, and so you don't want to be at the tail end of the development on this. One of the message here is don't be a too late adopter. I think it's already too late to be an early adopter because it hit the headlines. But jump on the bandwagon before anyone does it too much before you do, and then you lose your competitivity. And so the first risk of AI to me for organization, especially from a risk management and business model perspective, is not data, it's not bias, it's essentially reluctance from ignorance. Is that fear would freeze organizations to convert and use a boost of productivity and finally leave them behind with potentially a gap that is impossible to close. And I'm thinking Kodak and the old photo films. The other aspects in terms of this lack of the lack of knowledge or lack of subject matter expertise is that it might lead to an overestimation of the benefits. Oh, I'm going to give you my data and you're going to tell me which operational risk will happen next year. I had these sorts of requests from clients when I was running my analytics company, or underestimation of AI. This will be useless. This is worse than good. And so that's an interesting or important balance to look into. And one of the main resistance, of course, is relating to the HR implications. So who's going to be replaced? One of the early comment I had when I was discussing with an international organizations on the benefit of automated translation, for instance, the comment I had with, well, we're going to lose our jobs. People will lose our jobs. And there will be, I think it's undeniable that there will be some transformations in the skills, in the usage of the skills of employees. And that's the debate of, do you replace people or do you just move them to more skilled work? And we're gonna discuss that. So there will be firing, hiring. What I anticipate very much, and I'm far from being the only one, is a skill gap and a need for internal training that will be particularly acute. Fun fact or anecdote, 7 years ago, I was on a panel, or one of the many panel I was on, the future of operation risk in a very large European conference with hundreds and hundreds of people in the room and a very senior audience, lots of CEOs in the room. And our conclusion was that the biggest operational risk in the years to come would be skill shortages. And I think AI and the advancement of technology has just made that, if not confirmed, definitely acute. In certain countries, and I'm thinking Latin America or Europe, where unions and labor law are very strong, I anticipate as well quite a lot of social tension. So yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think this is a very important part of your presentation to land on here. This is a dynamic that's happening right now, right? It's there's an irony to this, that when email and the web were first introduced, and you can tell by my hair color that I was around for that, things like Some of these white collar jobs that we're talking about now, coding jobs, developer jobs, were the things that you retrained on at that point in order to still be useful to that economy, right? So you may have had your job phased out, but you studied online or you went to night school, you became a JavaScript coder so that you could um, so that you could survive and provide. And ironically, now they're coming for those very jobs because of the next round of productivity that is. So uh, there's a certain group of people that are just not safe from productivity enhancements, no matter where they jump. Um, when we talked about this before, you and I, we talked about you made the distinction between augmented intelligence, which
Mhm.
it was you spoke of in a positive way, versus the replacement of employees through AI, and you kind of alluded to it just now when you were talking about a skill
Mhm.
gap that would still be present. It doesn't sound like you were anticipating that as AI develops, it's going to completely wipe out white collar work or the need for human beings in this context. Can you talk a little bit about um, how the skills that employees need are going to be different, right? What's happening um, what's happening with the need for our skills? You mentioned that there's going to be still a gap, maybe perhaps more of a gap. Color that in
Mhm.
for me and tell me about how that's changing and what skills are going to need to be like in the future.
No, you're right. I should probably nuance that. There's two nature of skills gap. I would think some that are missing or that are scarce. And
Hmm.
I'm thinking, cybersecurity still now and definitely 10, 15 years ago, I remember a risk manager at Swift saying, cybersecurity specialist, everybody's looking for them. And the price are rising and there's a huge tension, data analysts, and now coders, deep learning specialists. These kids are trained at a rate of knots. I spent 9 years in the Department of Computer Science at University College London teaching operation risk, and all these what these people want to talk about is machine learning and deep learning. So there's a huge cohort now of students that are graduating and responding to these market needs. But for a long time, there was a gap between the needs, the consumptions of these new technologies and the rates at which these kids graduated. And now, even though there's more and more students studying that and interested in this, the need is only getting bigger because with the number of companies going into
Hmm.
that. That's one aspect. The other one are more the skills that people who will upgrade their job because of AI will need. And I'll give you one very specific example, very recent one. I was at the Vision 2030 conference of BDO, which is focused on like the future and new technology, as you can imagine. And one of the presenting company was saying, well, we automated all our email sorting a little bit like claims handling. So it's a security company, physical security company, and all the email coming in, instead of being triaged by a person, is triaged by a machine.
Hmm.
And sure enough, someone in the audience said, well, what happened to that woman who was triaging the emails? It was a
Hmm.
very interesting response. And the lady said, well, that woman was actually underutilized because she knows the company really well. She's been there for 20 years, and her knowledge allowed her to triage all the emails. But now that she has 80% of her time saved, she only does the escalated queries, and she has so much more time to do a lot more analysis, a lot more customer interaction. And so my hope, and that's again, it's quite common, but I think it needs to be reinforced as well to ease the tensions around this, is that people will be used more for their human intelligence rather than for the mechanical part of their job that can be boring. And so by skill gap here, I should say skill transformation or skill elevation. so people can be used for their analytics and reasoning rather than the mechanical task that can be delegated to a machine.
Let's talk about that tension a little bit because that's real, and there's a cohort of former developers now that were not upscaled in their utilization with the same company, let's say. And I want to talk a little bit about the types of jobs because this is not going to affect all jobs evenly. Generative AI, for example, handles some things better than it handles other things.
Mhm.
And it occurs to me that development, let's start with that because we're already starting to see some pressures there. Um, Development is one of those areas that lends itself to a generative AI capability because generative AI, by definition, is giving you a prediction of the average of everything that it's been trained on, right? So those things, those outcomes where the average is good, the average is a best practice, like development where you're looking for like a how to do something, right? And there's only a few ways that you can accomplish it. That application tends to be uh, one where generative AI is going to spit out things that are very usable very fast. In other applications, particularly more creative applications where you're trying to move yourself deliberately away from what is average. So in pursuits, what is average is by definition mediocre, for example, and in other pursuits as well. Generative AI might not necessarily be as usable for that immediate application as quickly. I like thinking about it as um, a well-meaning but ultimately naive intern, right? It's like giving right now, ChatGPT is like giving everybody an intern, right? Somebody who can summarize the internet for you very, very quickly, even though they may not necessarily know what they're looking for. They can give you a kind of a best guess. Can you comment on um maybe the types of
Sure.
applications
Yeah.
that you see this having more kind of a deleterious effect, and what types of jobs may or may not be more affected, and what people need how people need to think about that?
Yes. Thank you. I like your, and I do, your parallel between, is the average good or is the average mediocre? And hearing you speak about development, which is for the common men on the street, a woman on the street, for me is coding. So I just say
Yes.
also for the audience. So but what that make me think is coding, you're right, or you're, although I was coding
More or
in
less.
C++, so that's going to show my age, or even before C++. So it used to be in my old time when I was coding, it's true or it's false, and so it doesn't work if it's not exact. It doesn't work. So
It doesn't work,
generating,
correct.
having a co-pilot for that works really well because you're either completely right or completely wrong. It would be the same in math. It would be the same in stats. It would be the same in, and which is more my world, as you know, which is nonfiction and now fiction writing. By the way, fiction writing, everybody, I'll come up soon. But for that, it's true for spelling and to some
Mhm.
extent for grammar, even though, where you place the comma can change the sense of a sentence. But I think for tools like Grammarly or Exactitude or spell checks, that's perfect as well. Now,
Yes.
and so going back to where do you use ChatGPT and the intern, I think for all the spaces where you have a continuum, except the 0 and 1 between mediocre up to excellent, ChatGPT or any sort of building block, or DeepL, when you translate from English to French or to whatever, it gives you a base. And that's the equivalent of your naive intern. But at least
Mm.
that gives you your first stepping stone to improve.
Yes.
And I use, a generative AI to have what I call usually a version 0. And
Mhm.
yes, instead of asking a junior to do a version to break, I can ask ChatGPT and then I have something to work on. But I would say that's true for everybody. It's true for the interns as well. The interns then have a version 0 that they are in charge then to improve. And that not only going to improve their productivity, but I do believe, and I want to be optimistic, which I'm not always, but I want to be optimistic on that one. It's going to improve their quality as well, because it will force people to think. And I would say,
Mhm.
I'd like to insist on that a little bit, because there's sort of a general criticism that AI will make us dumb. I think we can absolutely use it as forcing us to make us more clever than we are, by keeping this critical mind.
It's very interesting because when email and the internet were first discovered, nobody knew what technology enhanced productivity was. We kind of fell into it and said, "Oh, well, I get it. We can be more profitable and productive this way." Now everybody knows what that is, and so you get some businesses that kind of have the salivating impulse to say, "Okay, great. What human beings can we replace with this in the name of profitability?" And what I hear in your answer is the idea that when the productivity comes, as J and AI get better, um, it, it it may be in the productivity of enhanced capability overall, rather than as a necessarily one-for-one replacement. In other words, most of the value we get out of this will not necessarily be a one-on-one replacement. We'll need more people with the skills to interpret what we get from this. Is like handing everybody pocket calculators, right?
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
and but our companies should be able to do more as a result of this, and we should
Yes.
eventually be able to have more cleverness and more capability to and that's where the value comes from. Before we spend the whole time talking about this, let me get you through more of your material. It's a
Yes.
fascinating conversation, though. Thank you.
Yeah, do more and do better, do
Mm,
more and more clever. And so just to finish on that, a common acceptance of the difference between artificial and human intelligence. It's also my pretext to share this adorable picture of a dog and a cat. But and we know AI is very much used for image recognition, but a 2-year-old can see very quickly the difference between a cat and a dog in those pictures. Teaching that to a machine is extraordinarily complex, because they basically look the same. It's these little tweaks that requires thousands and dozens of thousands of images for the machine to recognize. So narrow and deep is basically human intelligence, is complex nuances on a small set of data. And artificial intelligence is the opposite, is simple decisions on a large set of data. So if I give you a cloud of 500,000 credit card transactions, look at the clusters and look at the isolation ones. And so just to finish on and echoing what we discussed, AI is very good for naive or shallow or simple decision. And I know it's getting more and more complex with deep learning, but at an enormous effort. It's an enormous effort to mimic the human brain. It's not an enormous effort to handle large data set. And human is the opposite. It can handle just a few pieces of information, but use it in a very complex fashion, using sarcasm, using humor, using analogies, imaginations. And I don't know if you try using ChatGPT to have analogies or similes, and it's funny. It's very, very poor. It's just terrible, because that's not what it's for. And so finishing on that, I would say HI, so human intelligence, is to elevate rather than imitate. And I think for developers will do what they do, but for the organizations listening, I would believe that the biggest benefit you have for AI is when you can leverage its maximum possible to the complementarity of these features, of these strengths. All right. And so just for you to pause and reflect, and to think of, and feel free to type more questions in the chat that I'll answer either today or in the days to come by email, because I suspect there will be many. Do you have a clear strategy in your organization? Do you have AI risks integrated in your ARM framework? And then introducing our next topic, do you use AI to improve your risk management? All right. And so on that, back to the RiskNet survey of with Risk Connect, I was at last, very interested to see that the large majority of respondents placed risk management and risk assessment and management as the greatest gain from AI in the next 5 years, um, almost doubling compared to customer service, operational efficiency, and investment analysis. And that's not because risk management is more useful, it's because the others are done already. For years, if you think the JP Morgan, let
Yeah.
alone the Amazon, the Goldman of these worlds have massively invested in AI in their customer interface. But the poor parent was in risk management. And I know it because for years, with Chapelle Analytics, which was my analytical brand, I was trying to bang that drum of using AI to improve operational risk. And I had a, that's very interesting, but we're not there yet type of thing. It looks like finally we are getting there. And so just to make the link for those of you who were in our last webinar, in one of the third upcoming trend, I would anticipate in somewhere in the future. Now, frictions are such in our real world, and things take typically more time than we anticipate. But hopefully in the next 10 years, there will be a good view. The data and the big data analysis will help us having a good view of the interdependencies and between non-financial risks, to have a proper portfolio approach for non-financial risk management, like we have since Markowitz, so 1950s. Well, and then by the time Markowitz got known, it took another 30 years as well. But in the, let's say, the end of the 20th century in financial risk management, AI is more and more talked about now, even more recently since our last webinar. The two are not correlated. In automating control testing, analyzing the interdependencies of controls, and automating RCSA, so risk and control self-assessment, and also web scanning and emerging risk identification is still very rudimentary, but that's where also web analysis can really help. And so just to throw at you all the possibilities, we have about half an hour left, not 3 days together, but hopefully that might give you some ideas of applications for AI to risk management. Some are very well established, and they're pretty much, well, they're not quite in temporal order, but let's say I've put in front the one that are the most established, which is outliers detection, typically for fraud or any sorts of security detection. Cybersecurity, of course, adversarial model, for instance, are used for years already to sort of mimics the attack and reinforce the system. Cleaning and organizing data, again, it's used in front office. It can be used as well, for instance, in operational risk, in incident reporting, sorting, risk classification, risk taxonomy, and data cleaning in general. There are some techniques of unsupervised learning for limited data availability, which is relevant. Also in operational risk, some of you hopefully know by now that KRAS is my pet topics. And so validating where are the causes of operational risk, and do we have the right metrics that we monitor to causes the risk is important. Horizon screening 6 and 7 I've mentioned already. One of the massive advantage of machine learning is that it reads text and transforms text in terms of data or observable automation. So anything that is text heavy is useful, and one of the obvious applications of that is compliance and regulations. So the ability, and direct tech have started about 10 years ago, but now with the performance of LLM, so large language models, that really helps linking that. Behavioral drivers, I would point you at social physics, the work of Alex Pendland, and I know Risk Connect is looking into scenario analysis and simulation. This is, of course, this is naturally a field of applications of AI that is seriously looked at now by risk managers. So just to give you an idea of these, the wide applications that we can have of artificial intelligence for risk management, a little bit of more specifics in that. I selected three. I always select topics in three. One would be textual data analysis and generation. So categorizations of event type, that's and cluster analysis for taxonomy. That's actually, for those of you who don't know, the genesis of the risk taxonomy that ORX, so Operation Risk Data Exchange, the consortium for banks, have put together to replace, or at least as a substitute, or a suggested substitute to the Basel taxonomy. That was a work that has been done using machine learning on dozens of database of their members. They looked at the repeated words, like third-party risks, like conduct, like client risks, and they use these clusters of words as the new taxonomy. So these are the things that you can do relatively easily within your own company if you have proper data. Suggestion when filling event report, like we all have now, all these suggestions of text when you type emails or WhatsApp. You can have that in your risk reporting. Suggestion of taxonomies and generations of documentation and compliance scanning I've mentioned. Again, operation risk and compliance risk are very text heavy. And so everything we discussed with Scott on Gen AI and how to have this base of your naive intern that you can then elevate is very, very useful, because not only it's going to make, at the risk of repeating myself, not only is going to make you more productive, but it's going to allow you to move from version 0 to version 1 and 2, and therefore be more qualitative as well. Just a little bit of a case study. One of the machine learning projects I've done on risk management in a company that wanted to highlight. We needed to find KRIs on information security, and the data was relatively poor, but yet we had about 1,000 IT logs and a list of events. And what we did is that I created a catalog of keywords that would signal a control failure as a problem that would potentially be a KRI for operation risk. The reason I say I did it, it's because that would be typically an example of supervised learning, when we don't have the volume of data to say to the computer, there you go, here's our terabyte of data, and find what causes what. I would say, no, look in all the wordings of the IT logs, words around encryption, control gaps, defective codes, etc., etc. And we had three actually, a list, the long one, the medium one, the short ones, and we compare all the models, and I'll spare you the details, but basically we looked at how these keywords were crossing on linked to the fact that they had an incidence or no incidence. And what we found, and it fit my intuition so much, I was happy with the results, even though we should probably dig into more for robustness. But the most important KRIs were linked to encryptions and pen tests. Control gap is a bit wide, I give you that. And things around logging and monitoring and test issues on something I erased because it was a proprietary software, and I don't want you to know who that is, was less important. But just to show you these sorts, the combination of subject matter expertise or specialism. So you work with IT security specialists or risk management specialists, and you link to what the data says. And so that allows you to track KRIs that are more preventative of events than others that you think matters, but actually do not. Okay, and you can apply that to different topics.
I just want to say that that's fascinating. One of the things that has always been very hard to do is to draw connections between this kind of soup of causation that we experience every day, and what events may or may not be correlated with them, right? And the data that we have oftentimes is unstructured data as opposed to
Mhm.
structured data. So that really is a step forward. The idea of being able to link KRIs to a event frequency, for example. So that's fascinating to me.
But it's thank you. But it's also, I think, a good illustration of what we just discussed
Mhm.
about the combination of human intelligence and
Yes.
machine intelligence. Because human intelligence, by analogies, by experience, will tell you, I want to look at this, and this, and that. I want to label my data this way, this way, this way. I want to test these keywords.
Hmm.
But I'm not going to look through, thousands of IT logs or hundreds of thousands of IT logs if we're talking about large organization. This one was quite small. And so the machine is great at that. And so
Yes.
that's where you have the powerful combinations of the two intelligences, really. Um, last topics on another of my pet topics, the risk controls and dependencies. Having cluster analysis for to have a non-financial risk portfolio view, I've mentioned. Causalities between control failures and incidents, I've mentioned to some example, to some extent, and to have clusters of risks. Now, the illustration on the right, many of you might be familiar with, is the network of risk by the World Economic Forum, and we know that the predictive power is somewhat limited, but it has the benefit of existing. Maybe. Sorry, I don't want to be rude. They're really good.
The
They're really
benefit
good.
of existing. I'm stealing that.
Um, but these correlations, the link that you see are links that are expert driven. That's basically survey based. People will say, oh, I think this is correlated with this. What I would be fascinated in knowing is how the data confronted that. And for those of you who remember some of my earlier webinar before COVID, the World Economic Forum put absolutely at opposite end of the spectrum um, disease, pandemic disease, and hyperinflation.
Yeah.
Indeed, except that they were like, we know what happened. Um, and so I think moving away from our human intuition that can be good, but that is horribly biased. It's not only the machine that are horribly biased. We are way more biased than any machine, arguably, but I know we'll have a chance to talk about that. Confronting our thinking to reality or to data would be useful for risk management.
So I'm not gonna. I want to be able to make sure that you get through all the material, but I did want to make just one small passing comment about the bias that you just talked about, the use of these kinds of tools for things like horizon scanning and so forth. It has always occurred to me that one of the potential weaknesses of ERM in general, or operational risk in general, was the subject matter expertise dependence. Because at the end of the day, you're basically saying, on the risk assessment, do my risk assessment, and then we get to this point here, and I go and ask the subject matter expert and they stick their finger in the air, see which way the wind is blowing, and they come up with an answer, right? It's kind of like waving your hands and say, and then we get the answers and then we put them back into the equation, right? But different companies have different levels of expertise at their disposal. Certain different subject matter experts have different amounts of imagination that they can apply. You do your best to try and get rid of such bias by interviewing more than one person and have several people contribute to it. But at the end of the day, um, human beings are rotten at a couple of things that some of this general intelligence that you're talking about, this broad intelligence, is decently good at. One of those things is applying necessary information or making sure that you've thought of everything or thought of the main things, right? So as a supplement, you talked about scenario analysis, which this is going to have enormous and wonderful consequences for scenario planning and scenario analysis, horizon scanning, making it so the World Economic Forum produces things that actually correlate with reality. Those kinds of ideas are going to end up being important and powerful applications, I think, of AI in this field that I don't think people should be afraid of. I think should probably welcome. Do you have a comment on that or a reflection on that as we go forward?
No, yes, I absolutely agree. I think confronting our thoughts to reality is is always good and sometimes painful. It also relates to a number of discussions we had on backtesting the results
Mhm.
of predictions. And I think we can do that, and we're going to talk about how also to validate the results of the AI model. But the same way when you do, or you do, when risk managers do risk and control self-assessment, i.e. manually, and say this is high, this is low,
Mhm.
confronting their opinions with what actually happened is very educative. And you could do that with the machine as well. The machine said KRI 1, 2, 3 are predictive of losses. I would really encourage firms to question that in light of experience. So after a
Sure.
year, did they really correlate it? The dependency here wouldn't be on the dependency on Mr. XYZ's opinion, but more the data scientists and the coders.
Yes.
So the skill gaps or the skill shortages that we were talking about in part one. I know we don't have a huge amount of time left, so I'll keep going, and then I'm sure I know you will have questions for me coming up, Scott. But again, typically now here's the pattern. We start the section with the risk.net survey with Risk Connect. What are the firms most concerned about in relation to AI adoption, decision based on inaccurate information, data, privacy and cyber risk, and what are the key challenges, data and transparency and explainability. Regulation as well, but regulation is very sector specific, so this is intentionally out of scope for today. So obviously, data, wrong data, wrong model, wrong decision making, all that makes sense. And so a number of very I don't know, I was about to say very well known, and I mentioned very well known, I should say much talked about, which can be, we may not be the same thing, is the data input. So what's the quality of the training set? What's the quality of your data output? One being, of course, dependent on the other, explainability or not. So the black box effect, SMEs dependency we talked about, and also the systems dependency. So you depend on both the people who operate the system and obviously the system themselves. And so just here a few comments on what to do with that data input. So the quantity more often than not matters, not always. And also if you talk to people who code and understand code much better than me, will tell you that it really depends on what type of method you use. However, working in data for 30 years, I would also encourage you to have to think creatively in terms of input, in terms of wider input. What are the proxies? What are the data that you can use? I find by experience that a lot of organizations don't have, I would say, imagination enough to see what they can use. Quality. Just a parallel with the training set for those of you who may not be super familiar with machine learning. An easy parallel is teaching a kid to read. If you teach them the sound of th, there you go, which is francophone that have different with the, th. How do you pronounce the? If you say the, for instance, which the French will say, he's going to say the wrong things. If you teach them not all the letters, he won't be able to read some letters. If you don't teach some of the words, he won't be able to know some of the words. And so what the machine will learn, well, guess what, is the same, has the same dependence on the quality and the quantity of the training set. And so, continuous sense checks, continuous cleaning on your training set, both human and automated, is very, very important. And that's part of the balance set. And I'll have one more detail coming up in the next visual on this. If you have 10% of one part of a population and 90% can be errors, not errors, it can be events, not events, it could be gender differences, it can be age difference. If one cluster is 10%, the other is 90%, you're going to reproduce these imbalance. And so that might be right, because that's, you want 10% of incidence and not 50% of incidence. But more often than not, you need equilibrium between your categories, just like you need it in stats. For those of you who have backgrounds in stats, there's a lot of the rules that are replicable. Output data, much talked about hallucinations, and that's also why you need cross-checks and sense checks. Cross-checks would be a classic approach also in model risk. You use several models and you confront the response. I know even OpenAI staff or coders that ask ChatGPT several times the same questions to contrast the answer and cross-check with that. That's an easy way to address it. And model performance, the same way you perform the output, you need monitoring, and you need also, like always in model risk, assumption review. So just one last element on the data. The one was the first image is like an anachronism, so don't use old data on new problem or vice versa. So an example that is easy to understand is drivers of job satisfaction and conditions pre-COVID versus post-COVID. What people expect is very, very different. So make sure that the data you use is in the same paradigm, is in the same context that the data you use as a training set, that you use as your prediction sets. The relevance of the context. So here you have a surfer on the beach, but except that it's the wrong surf. But you don't use the regulatory environment in the US to comment in Europe. It's a different structure of law, so that's going to be completely wrong. And if I take the last pie chart, if you want an explainability of what drives these very green slices, which is a super thin slice of your model, that's going to be completely drowned in the mass of other data. I could nuance that, but in the interest of time, I just want to give you the idea that if you want to explain green, for instance, you need a lot more green. Otherwise, you're going to skew all your stats and therefore all your results. So before I summarize, Scott, do you have comments?
I was thinking about this as you were talking. It sounds like you were talking earlier in the presentation about, with the advent of AI, there are going to be some things that are less and some things that are more, right? We're going to be trading off certain things, right? One of the things that we're trading off here is, as we get the help from these tools, there will be an increasing need for in some cases, a very deep understanding of the limitations of those tools, right? And this ties into data sets, right? Because data sets are a limitation of these tools. I'm now thinking about generative AI and what these, the sets that the data sets that these models are trained on. The data set, in effect, becomes the model the way that generative AI works, right? You change your model every time you change the
Mhm,
data set. Um, that's that's tricky. Organizations are going to have data science knowledge that they probably don't have right now, at the very least, to understand where problems might exist in the model. Because the way these models work, you can have a general idea of whether your model is getting better or worse by is the answer good, is the answer bad, and so forth. But if there is an underlying error somewhere, like a potential for hallucination or something like that, you won't see that until the error happens, right? It's a rare, they become tail events, in other words. So you could have problems with your data, making problems with your model that are just not seen, right?
mhm,
And that gives rise to the idea of um, what am I trying to say? That gives rise to the idea of a certain level of opacity, where we just trust
mhm,
what comes out of the system without realizing that there's errors having been introduced by the training data. Several states right now are passing legislation, Colorado being one of the first ones, to limit algorithmic bias in areas like lending or
mhm.
hiring and so forth. And how are you gonna quantify how much bias your algorithm has? How are you going to be sure that you've trained it on data that's broad enough and sufficient enough that you've covered yourself in the event of potential lawsuits? Those don't strike me as easy questions to answer from the outset of it. What are your thoughts about what expertise people are going to need to gain and apply to data sets in the future, and making sure that they are as cogent and as broad and as correct as what you were talking about?
Yeah. I would say two things, not new and best effort. On the not new aspect. So if I comment on your comments in order, you say, well, we don't know an error happens until it happens, and we might have wrong decisions. Uh, Yes, but people make mistakes as well, not only machines. And so for years and centuries and millennia, the world is not always a happy place, let's say. We've made errors without knowing we were making errors. And one of the classic answer I would say is go back and reevaluate whether your decisions were good or not in order to improve for next time. So I would say do that with your human decision making the same way you do for your machine decision making. And the
Okay.
second one, best effort, and is we have that on the senior manager regime in the UK on the financial services. Senior managers are responsible if they can demonstrate they've made all the reasonable effort to monitor their risk and organize their controls and supervise their team. I think I would apply that, analogies, human intelligence. I would apply that mutatis mutandis to the model management. If
Sure.
you can demonstrate that you've done all your best effort, after that, you're not accountable for the impossible.
Could you go on to your summary, please, and just
Yes.
tell us how to think about this?
So just to finish, I would say don't leave it until it's too late, because everybody's looking into that and you don't want to be bypassed. So make sure also from a risk management strategy point of view, have a proactive AI strategy. Identify each risk, link upwards and downwards, link to your AI objectives. And also do not forget that AI can help you improve your risk management and mitigate some of your risk. It's not only a bunch of risks that you add to your companies.
That's a wonderful thought on which to leave it. Thank you very much for your thoughts today. Thank you for such wonderful information. This was a very valuable dive into this topic. I want to thank my guest, Ariane Chapelle. I want to thank all of you for spending some time with us today, and we will see you on the next installment of Risk at Work. Take care.